Okay, so everybody present, I believe we'll call this meeting to order. The November 26, 2019 board meeting for the Glasgow Electric Plant Board is now called to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and any additions. Do I have a motion to approve?
I would like to amend the agenda to remove item 8 until such times as we've had a consultant to advise us to the benefits and the losses of entering into the contract.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor of amending the agenda, remove number 8 until we have discussed consultant proposals. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign.
Opposed.
Opposed? Nay. Motion fails. So again, the original question is the approval of the agenda and any additions. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Anyone? Got a motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda for this meeting signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign.
No.
So first item on the agenda, number 2, is consider entering into executive session per KRS 61.181G.
You need a motion to go
I
into
need a motion to go into
executive
executive session. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
And a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of going into closed session signify by saying aye.
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 Tag,
All those opposed, like sign.
we do need to, you got some requirements, to go in closed session. You've got to give the general nature of the business, the reason for the session, and we got to cite the specific exceptions. So
Okay, so it's KRS.
I guess in your motion, somebody needs to.
Yeah, it's KRS section 61.810.1G, which deals with potential business, the effects on that business through private or public discussions. So, and we've also got, so we need to go ahead and dispose of this one first. So is that enough, Ronnie, do you think, to satisfy the
Yeah,
minimum
as long as you
requirement?
state the general nature, which is, I guess, prospective businesses you're talking
Yeah,
about.
prospective
And,
or current business.
Reason for the session would be proprietary information, maybe, I guess. And
Okay.
then you cited the statute, which is subsection G, correct?
Yes,
I think that's sufficient.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I thought you'd go ahead and deal with both of
Aye.
them, so you can only go back there once.
Yeah, we are. So I want to go ahead and consider, instead of coming back out and having to go back in, we could just stay in closed session if we go ahead and vote on consideration of entering into executive session per KRS 61.810.1C, which deals with potential litigation. So can I get a motion, a second, and a second?
Motion.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, like sign.
Tag, I think you're still going to have to say the same things about that particular
Yeah, so.
issue.
Yeah,
You got to give the general nature, you can't just say litigation, so.
yeah, it's potential litigation regarding some potential defamation, libel, or slander. And it's for just considering discussions with an attorney to look at the options available to us. All right, been moved, seconded, and passed. So I guess we're in closed
Okay,
session.
yeah, we're gonna go down the hall. Amy, will you lead the procession?
No matter whether it's raining or rain. I'm not good.
It's really exciting.
But they're a little high. But like I said, there's a difference between the Bible and notebook.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to bring us out of executive session and back into open session.
Motion. Second.
Got a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are back in open session, regular session. So the next item on the agenda is, well, I'm sorry. The next item we're going to talk about is, we're going to take some action, I believe, now that we're out of executive session, on item number 3, which is KRS 61.8101C. Can would I entertain I will entertain a motion for, up for discussion for any motions regarding number 3.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we consult with a qualified competent counsel to investigate potential litigation regarding libel, slander, and defamation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a motion and a second. All those in favor of seeking counsel, qualified competent counsel to investigate the potential for libel, slander, or defamation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign.
No.
Motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the October 22nd, 2019 meeting. I'd like to, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Got a motion by Marlon. Do we have a second? Second by Jeff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Number 5, Billy Ray, give us a report of the in lieu of tax payments for 2019.
Right, annually, give this report. One of the things about being a municipal utility that's organized under the Little TVA Act is that we are required to make tax payments to all local taxing districts that mimic ad valorem taxes. I mean, like, if you went back to the 1930s, that was the concept of that. So they are loosely or mostly based upon our property value, the plant we have in place, and there's an exotic formula that luckily Melanie understands on how to produce these payments. And we make a bunch of them. We're about to pay the state of Kentucky $46,000. We're about to pay the Agricultural Extension Service, the UK Extension Service, $4,500. We're going to pay, this is a new one, the Ambulance Service. We are a funder since they became a taxing district. We're funding them this year at $5,800. Fiscal Court gets right at $37,000 this year. The library, Marywood Weldon Library, gets $6,000 from us this year. City of Glasgow gets $40,000 from us this year. Glasgow Independent Schools, close to $250,000, $233,000. And Barron County Schools get right at $39,000, for a total of $412,000. Those payments are made to those entities because we are a municipal utility operating under the Little TVA Act. If we weren't, those payments would not be going to those entities. And recently, the legislature passed a law that forces TVA to divert some of its 5% tax revenue that it collects off of the distributors. Jump in if I say this wrong, Ernie. But it had a sliding scale. It was in the Daily Times, I know, a week or 10 days ago, that the fiscal court met to dispense $100,000, or at least $25,000 of it they dispensed, I read. And they got a total of 100 this year, and from now on, they're going to get 150. So all of this comes from our association with TVA, and it is a pretty dramatic economic impact on the community that should not be ignored.
Billy, can I add just a touch to that?
I knew I'd do something wrong.
No, that's fine. $38 million is what we pay to the state of Kentucky in lieu of tax. And then the state distributes that out. And then that $150,000 is just part of what the community gets of that $38 million that we pay to the state.
Yeah. Until that law passed, we got practically nothing in Barron County because TVA doesn't own any property here to speak of. Okay. Now this is the thing you've been wanting to deal with. 2 or 3 months ago, we presented architectural designs for changes to our various retail tariffs. You'll remember all the colorful charts and the long nature of the meeting because we have 6 tariffs. You all instructed me to go to TVA and ask them to approve that, and they have done so. So what I need to do tonight, in whatever format you choose to do it, is to actually approve the tariff sheets that I have distributed to you in the package, because we need to get that in the system and start billing that January 1. And we have one more thing, I need to get an appointment at the next city council meeting to inform them of it, because the law says I'm supposed to do that. Those changes that you approved result in a net decrease. As usual, I have seen at least one media outlet say they're increasing the rates again. Well, that, as usual, is wrong. It's a net decrease to the people of Glasgow. There are increases in the customer charge, but there are corresponding decreases in the kilowatt hour charge that result in a net decrease. Of course, it would be even greater if we were enjoying the TVA 3.1% increase, but the tariffs I sent you and the tariffs TVA approved were for without that, because that's all I had to go on at the time. Now comes your decision. You want me to go through all those colorful slides again? Do you want to look at the tariffs, or do you want to make a motion without me dragging you through that?
I mean, we've looked at these ad nauseum over the course of the last 2 months, and it's now time. I think, make your decision. Everybody had an opportunity to take those home with them, review those, which I think we suggested last month we do. And if everybody is comfortable and had an opportunity to review those, then I will make a motion that we approve the tariffs as presented. And then we can have some discussion, but I need a second on that.
Second.
Got a second? We have any discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the tariffs as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Except for the tariffs.
Okay, well, this is just a reminder, this is a slide you've seen before, but until I am instructed otherwise, we are trying to get to 100% non-volumetric rates, such that all of our fixed charges are funded by the customer charge. And so we've got this schedule of increases that it's going to take for 4 more years to get there. Of course, each one of those increases will also have a decrease to the energy charge. So August of 2020, when we start talking about this again, you'll see this slide again, unless you tell me you don't want to do that anymore. My assumption is you still want to stay on this track until I'm told otherwise. Now I want to get y'all through all that stuff, because you have said you don't want to look at all of it.
Now, wait a minute, in fairness, we didn't want to look at it again.
Yeah. That's right.
Not that we didn't want to look at it.
They're beautiful slides.
Be very specific.
Okay, well, this is the agenda item for you all to talk about the proposals from consultants. I wasn't on that committee. I did provide the committee with comments, and I don't know what else to say about that. I'll be glad to answer any questions about my comments.
Well, I've got something I'd like to discuss before we discuss this. I'm gonna make a motion that we table this to a later date. There was some action taken at last night's city council meeting that I believe to be improper. The intent of the little TVA Act was to separate out our decision-making body from that of the body politic. I feel like that was violated last night during the city council meeting, and I feel like that it's putting some undue influence on a couple of board members that may not feel like they have the opportunity to vote the way that their conscience allows them to vote. So I'd like a little bit of a cooling off period. I'd like to go ahead and table that to a later date so that we have an opportunity to let some of these emotions cool down a little bit and, fully digest exactly what we're talking about here with these proposals. So I'm going to make a motion that we table that. If I can get a second for that, please.
I'll second.
Got a second. All those in favor of tabling the agenda item number 7, signify by saying aye.
Don't you want any discussion
We
on
can have
this?
discussion, absolutely.
All right. Well, and based on the appointment of a committee last month, Libby and I were on it, and we didn't get together much because we had conflicts in the first and a flu in the second. But I did take Billy Ray's suggestions and adjustments to the ICF and the GDS proposals.
Now, just to make sure that we're staying within the confines of what we're discussing here, we're discussing tabling this. We're not discussing
Yeah, no,
actual consideration for the proposal.
I'm
Okay.
trying to get to the point that...
And let's
we-
be specific too, even though we didn't get to meet face to face, we still communicated.
Well, yes, we did, and we did work on proposals for modifications based on Billy Ray's recommendations, which were reasonable in going about getting a functional proposal, but I would suggest that tabling it would just be throwing it out
Okay.
and not looking at it at all.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of, I'm going to call the question, all those in favor of tabling number 7 on the agenda, the discuss consultant proposal, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those in favor, like sign.
No?
So passes 3-2. So we're going to table that for a later date. Number 8, we're going to consider the TVA long-term proposal. Everybody's had an opportunity, I believe, several times to go through that proposal. We have taken it home with us. We've been talking about this since the August meeting, and like to...
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we accept the TVA 20-year contract as presented.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say a few things about it.
Okay, sure.
May I make one point here, quick, Dick?
Yeah.
Has everybody got the red line one that you submitted, you know, because we had the first one and now we got the red line one where the
Right.
TVA
Right.
has made some,
And I've got a link to
Changes.
it up here too.
I just wasn't sure everybody noticed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you bring it up on,
I hope so.
just so we're all on the same page, we know we're looking at the same thing.
Tell me where you want me to stop.
Well, fella, I don't, DT, you had some discussion, so I guess if we have some discussion about it, it's available to you up here. We can.
All right, well, I would just like to discuss before we vote on it, the fact that, you know, the 3 of us, or 4 of us, or 5 of us are sitting here making a decision for people, boards, for the next 20 years. We're making a decision on a contract that is $500 million. It affects kids that are not even born yet. People who are not born yet are going to be paying these tariffs down the road. There is no revocable clauses in this. You're stuck. The fact that we would consider this without the possibility of somebody offering something, another look, another options, whatever options there are, whether these rates are good, bad, and the fact is we are not, and we haven't offered to throw out TVA. We have a 5-year contract. That's not in jeopardy. We're there. We're talking about 20 years. We don't know the economic conditions in 10 years. We don't know who's going to be on the TVA board, whether they go bankrupt. We're stuck with whatever they've got. A 5-year contract is a reasonable amount. As a business person, I would take that. There's not a business person in their right mind would take a contract that's 20 years without knowing what's down the line. We need the best possible advice. There are people in this world that have looked at these things, that have said, and it isn't as though this is the final bite. If we don't do it now, TVA is likely at some point to say, if you've got some other options, we may renegotiate this. They're not going to renegotiate it if we sign it. We're dead. We're done. We have options. People in most of the TVA's territory don't have any options whatsoever. It is 100 miles from where they are. We are on the edge of TVA's territory, and we have options. And the fact that we have them gives us leverage with TVA. They're not going to want us to leave if there's a possibility that they can make a deal with us. They're not going to make a deal if we signed up. You know, We're talking about a consultant cost here, $100,000. Half of it, $60,000. In a year's time, we spend $38 million. That means if you're paying a $25 electric bill, that's 4 cents of it. It's not a lot of money. It is a prudent thing to do, to look at this, to say, okay, this is a good deal. Maybe we don't sign up now. Maybe if we go down a ways and we decide to sign up, we can't. Once we've signed it, we can't back out, but we can always sign it. It's the most nonsensical thing that a agency would ever ask a board like us to do. If we don't sign it, it doesn't mean we can't. It doesn't mean we're going to back out of TVA. It doesn't mean anything except that we want to look at it, and if we want to hold off of until. Now, 3% is not a big deal. I mean, that's just a trivial amount of money, and in fact, TVA has to bill it back to us one way or the other. They don't have a pot of money here. They don't have stockholders on which they can take the 3% from. The 3% has to come back and bite us. They don't have any money. Therefore, if they're giving us a 3% break, they're taking it back somewhere else. We're not getting any money. I just think it's very...
Just to address that, can we look at what the price controls are in our contract? Can we have a look at that?
But the other thing
Controls
is,
in place here.
I realize
but
that.
we also, anybody looking at this community or any industry operating in this community knows that they are paying by virtue 3.1% more to stay here if we don't do this, or 3.1% more than another TVA serviced area to come here.
That is a very small portion of what the cost is and the potential cost.
It's $12 million over the next 20 years.
Well, we're paying, over the next 20 years, we're paying $500 million to them.
Well, we paid to somebody.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to buy our energy from somebody.
And
So that's irrelevant.
And we're not talking about not doing it. We're talking about postponing doing it, so we still have the option. You know, 5 years is a reasonable amount of time to sign a contract. You might know what's going to happen, or at least presume you're going to know what happens. 20 years, we don't have a clue as to what's going to happen. This is totally irrelevant. I mean, totally unforeseen. No way you can know your grandkids are going to be paying this.
I mean, I think some of the most important things we do know because it's in the contract. We
What do
do
you
know
mean?
what our price
No, you
controls
don't.
are. It's
No, you
right
don't.
here. in
You got a
black and white.
5% for the first 5 years. That could come on the day after
We got
we
a
sign
10%
it.
over 10.
No, we got 5% over the first 5 years. That could come on the day after. They could take that right
Would
back.
you like,
It says 5% over the first 5 years.
And we're no worse off than anybody else. in
Okay,
society.
then at the end of 5 years, they can put on another 10%. But that doesn't include the cost of the fuel, the cost of the nuclear fuel, the fuel going through the machines. It doesn't include that. And it doesn't include the most expensive, what causes all the peaks around here, is the pass-through costs from the other TV utility, or the other utilities that they buy it from. That's the expensive part. That's the part that costs us the most. They can pass that straight through to us, and they will.
But they all do that.
I didn't say they didn't, but you say that this is some kind of a fixed price. It's
TVA
not
is
even
no
close.
different. TVA is no different than any other power producer in the fact that they pass the fuel charge adjustment on.
I know, but you're saying this as though it's a fixed cost. We got a locked-in rate. We don't.
No, I'm saying that our cost of the wholesale electric rate is locked in. Fuel cost adjustments are going to fluctuate no matter who we go with.
TVA's
So that's-
generating
those are-
assets are
those are-
more diversified
Yeah.
than other providers.
They may be. This may be the best company there is, but we're locking into it, and you don't know what's going to happen to it after 5, 10 years.
I didn't know what was going to happen when I married my wife after 10 years either, but I took that leap of faith because you know what? She was a good partner to be with at the time.
Well,
And I could see it 20 years down the road as being a good partner to be with.
sometimes
at the
they
time.
don't work out that way.
We see, I understand, we see the same thing with TVA.
That would be true.
Okay? And I think after our closed session meeting, you know, talking about and, you know, our guest, you know, espousing the benefits of, you know, for that economic development potential and what, you know, we have available to us by partnering with TVA and in the form of financial incentives and what the market is looking for. They're looking for TVA-affiliated locations to do business in. You know why? Because they're the best. They're better than the rest.
I am not arguing that the benefits aren't good.
Okay.
I am arguing that you cannot see the future. I'm a business person.
Mm-hmm.
I would never sign a contract for 20 years. I have no idea what they're going to be doing 20 years from now. I don't know what the economics are going to be. I don't know whether they're going to go bankrupt, it's just too far down to predict. And you're signing on to something that's irrevocable. You're not going to be able to back out of this. In 10 years, we've still got another 20 years to get out. There's no need to do that.
Well, that's where we disagree, because I believe there's an impact today. And what we do today is going to impact
It's foolish.
not just our operations and our fiduciary responsibility to this board and the operations of the electric platform. It's going to have an impact on the city as a whole, okay? There are economic development decisions that are being made today that are based on whether or not we accept TVA as our provider.
They're based on our being in TVA in 20 years?
I, for
Hell no.
one, I can't look at 20 years, I don't know what's going to happen.
I know when you're signing a
Future.
contract, that is.
But I do know what the impact will be today. I do know that, okay? I know that for a fact because we just had a member of our economic development team tell us.
That's the way it
what
is today.
the impact will be today.
That's the way it is today, and it may be
So
good.
so
in 5 years.
today, Glasgow needs an injection. As he stated, we've lost 500 jobs in the last 10 years when, in manufacturing, when Bowling Green has picked up 3,000.
That's
Well,
right.
they have the
Okay.
same supplier. How's that count?
What do you mean?
We've lost them, they've got them. The power hadn't.
willing to
I don't know what
less
to place the
competitive
blame. All I know
That's what
is,
you're- that's
all
what
I know
you're
is
saying.
You're saying
all I know is that if we
stay-
don't stick with TVA, that it will have a negative impact
I
on
didn't say we weren't going to do
today's
that.
economic development.
Why do you presume that that's what's going to happen? Because we get good advice on what to do and hold off until conditions, we're sure they're right.
Just the mention of the fact that we may be considering someone else besides TVA, all right, can have a major negative impact on today's, not 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, today's
Okay, if
economic development.
TVA hadn't stuck this 20-year contract in front of us and said sign, would we've had any problem here? No.
Well, but we got a financial incentive of $12 million over the next
That's on
20
a
years.
$500 million contract.
Plus, we're locking in price controls, okay?
It's not locked
There are
in. I just
benefits.
pointed it out, it's not
But
locked
you
in.
are locking them in relative to other TVA distributors.
Absolutely.
We can be no worse off.
Right.
We can be
We need to
worse
send
off
a
from
strong
everybody else
message.
in the country.
We need to send a strong message
We don't
to
know that.
anyone looking at economic development within Glasgow, Barron County, that we are open for business.
Have you ever run a
And-
business and looked out there and said, I want to buy gold in 10 years and 20 years,
DT,
and here I'm really signing on.
DT, I'm in the
No.
I'm a partner in a renewable energy business. We do gas-fired generation, solar generation, et cetera, all over this country. And let me tell you, I
How
have
many
not.
contracts
let me-
do you have at 20 years?
Every one. There is not a single offtake agreement, that's what those are called, a single offtake agreement that is less than 20 years. You know why? Because if you're going to spend millions, tens of millions, or even billions of dollars in the case of TVA, they want to assure that someone, the investors, Wall Street, wants to ensure that there's going to be someone to buy that energy over a 20-year time frame. Because that's the only amount of time that they can recoup their required return of investment, which is normally in the double digits. That's why they're done this way. There is an economic reason for it being done this way, and it is standard in the energy industry. Now, I understand it may not be in yours, but in this industry, it is standard. We were in 20-year agreements up till what,
1963 until 1999.
1999. We had 20-year agreements.
Solar amateurization, but that's,
No, here.
No,
Here,
offtake
the
agreements to
EPB
buy the
had a
power
20-year
is a
contract.
20-year agreement.
Till
That's it.
99, right?
Wall
That's right.
Street will take as a 20-year agreement. Okay?
which
We had a
one?
20-year agreement up until 1999 here. The EPB, TVA, was a 20-year contract.
Well, we just recently
And
got
we didn't back
5
out of it when we got it.
Right. But
And
what
that
I'm-
doesn't mean we will back out of it.
Right, but what I'm saying is, DT, is that in today's climate, knowing what we know today, what we've just heard,
We've gone
Okay.
through 30 years of a 5-year contract. It
Did
doesn't
you
hurt
hear,
anybody.
did you hear a member of our economic development team, local economic development team, did you hear him say that even the consideration of looking at someone besides
I
TVA
thought
will
that
have
was
a...
a private conversation.
No, we can talk about, we're just not gonna talk about the specifics. But did you hear him say that it will have a negative impact on our economic development prospects?
He said if we changed from TVA, it would have perhaps an.
Even the discussion of it
The
has
discussion
a
of it
negative. And
is
you
what he
also
said.
heard him say, if you're going to get a
If you
community
weren't
going.
bringing it up, it wouldn't be discussed.
And he also said, if you're going to
Well,
get a
thank God
community
somebody
going,
did.
hang on, and if you're going to get a community going and growing, you've got to do it from the manufacturing side. You cannot, I've said it in here time after time, we cannot fix this community's problem with the rate structure. You
I mean,
say
we're
there's
talking
people
about-
hurting, sure, there's
we're
people
talking
hurting.
about a
There's
contract,
no-
not the rate
There's no
structure.
income, and we've got to get industry growing, and if this is a way to do it, then that's what we need to
But
do.
what confounds me is the fact that you and members of the city council, our mayor, our esteemed mayor who is here with us tonight, everybody knows this. What we learned tonight is not new information. People already know. But yet we're still willing to risk that potential economic impact, positive economic impact, for what? For what reason? So somebody can be right? All right? What is the, why? We are doing what is best for this community. My wife hit
No,
me
you're
up
not.
about, I'll
You're
make
not
this
doing
point.
all of
Yes.
what's right.
You're doing it for
Yes,
campaign
we are.
funds.
I don't,
Campaign.
listen,
That's,
I don't get paid, I get
You
paid
know.
$200 a meeting. I'm at personal risk of imperiling personal income, all right, because of this, because I'm going against what the body politic wants in this, all right? I'm going at personal risk because I believe so strongly in the fact that what we're doing is right for this community as a whole, will have an impact in the positive for decades to come. You want to talk about children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren? Let's bring manufacturing back into this community, high-quality paying jobs, and the only way this is going to happen.
You're just selling pie in the sky.
No.
You don't know any of that. It's all just
Were you
speculation.
in that meeting? Were you just in the meeting back in the day?
I heard him say it would be great to stay in TVA, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stay in it for, he didn't say stay in it for 20 years.
You're being disingenuous. You heard the same thing I heard.
I did.
And everybody in this community that has contact with or has insight into the economic development activities going on in this community, they know the same thing we do. So I think at this point, we need to make sure that we are not closing down or potentially closing down an avenue or even the appearance of closing down an avenue for economic development. I think we need to do everything we can to make ourselves look pretty, hold our hands out and say, you know what, we are open for business. We have the best. We have the best schools. We've got the best health care. We've got the best neighbors that you could have. And guess what? We've also got the best economic development
We have a
partner.
bunch of people
We've
in
also
this
the
town that are
best
not doing
economic
too good,
development
but that's
partner
not
that
going to
in
help
the
them.
entire country in the form of TVA.
that is going to.
That needs to be a
That is
strong
going-
message
We've
sent
got
to
to
us.
fix it
A
on the income
20-year
side.
contract has got to help everybody. That's just crazy.
We've
You
got to
don't
start
know
with
what's
industry.
happening in 10 years. You don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. You don't know what the hell's happening, and you're signing up for an irrevocable contract.
But at the end of the day, our job on this board is to vote on the matters that are put in front of us, the information we have now.
And we're not
Not
looking at all
10
of it.
years, not 20 years, not 5 years ago, the information we have now and how it is relevant to the city.
And we're not going after the information that we need to make a decent
It
decision.
all boils down to whether or not you're willing to risk what we know today for something we might find out that from a consultant that we can do 2, 3, 5 years down the road.
It's not 2, 3,
Okay.
5. A consultant can wrap things up. They got 90-day contracts.
Right.
You can find out what's going on.
We're in a 5-year.
But then who's
deal
to
with
say that that
TVA.
consultant's findings are going to suit everybody and they're not going to come back and want another one?
It's the same.
And spend some more money and waste more
It will-
money.
It will be this board's decision to make a decision on whether that's a valid
Well,
information
Let me just put it
or.
this-
like I said, our job is to vote on the information we have that pertains to today.
Well, you can close your eyes to the rest
I'm
of
not
it.
closing my eyes to anything. My eyes are wide open.
Ready to call the question?
Well, if is everybody finished with discussion? You have anything else you'd like to add, DT?
I think that you're making a horrid mistake for the people of Glasgow.
Noted. Jeff, you have anything left? Libby?
All I can say to that is that I pray that we are making the right decision. However your vote falls, I pray that your vote is falling correctly. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
All this will be revealed. I mean, at some point, it'll all come out, it'll all be part of public record.
Absolutely.
And everybody has to wear that yoke around their neck from here till election day if you're an elected official.
You're going to have
So-
to wear it for 20 years.
So let's hope that we all make the right decisions. Now, I do have a couple of little things I want to say. First of all, Ernie, I would like to apologize to TVA. You're the representative here. After what we, last night in the city council meeting, there were some very disparaging remarks that were coming to TVA. We may butt heads, we may disagree as far as the board and TVA go, but you all are partners. You're our partner. You are our economic
Mr.
development
Harden has called the
partner.
question.
And you are, I'm having discussion. You are our economic development partner in this deal, okay? So I would like to apologize about, because trust me, the majority of the citizens in this community don't feel that way about TVA, okay? We feel like you're a good, positive influence on our community. We feel like that you've had a lot to contribute to us since 1962. We feel like nationwide, especially in the southeastern United States, TVA has had a profound impact since 1933 since the TVA Act was signed. I mean, your mandate is to increase, number one was to make sure we had good drinking water, right? Then it was economic development, and then it was power production. So that is your mandate, is to provide those economic benefits. So for us to disparage you publicly, I want to apologize on behalf of the majority of the citizens within this community. We don't feel that way about you. We like the fact that you're part of this community, okay?
Appreciate it.
So please pass that along. We certainly don't feel that way. So, knowing that, I think that's all I've got to say. Let's call for the question. All those in favor of signing the 20-year contract with TVA signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The contract is, the motion has passed. So moving on to number 9, let's go ahead and set the December meeting date. What date is that planned for, Billy? That's
Wait a minute.
24th right now.
Yeah, the 24th, Tuesday, but I assume that's not gonna.
We could have Santa Claus come down here.
Yeah, who's dressing up?
And there's nothing that says it has to be on Tuesday night, you can go after, you can go before, Nineteenth.
17th?
Well, let's see.
That's a
The
Tuesday.
week after,
I'll
will
be
be
here
New
whenever
Year's
y'all say.
Eve. Yeah, 17th is fine.
How much time do they need for preparation? Get it
Y'all don't need to worry about that, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
So you want 17th? Look good to y'all? My calendar's open.
That's good for me.
That's good.
All right, so we'll set the meeting date for the 17th. So all those in favor of moving the date to December 17th?
Yeah, you still be.
I don't know.
Like, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
You got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
You got a second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Superintendent's report.
Okay, I'll try to rush through this. I think mainly customary items, the financial review I'll do in a second, the new December 1 fuel cost adjustment, the CPD ledger, which is where I show you how we're doing on the additional charge we made to our coincident peak demand in order to allow the 4-day maximum that we agreed to. The Windstream bankruptcy, which I think they're changing their name to Kinetic. RBG Foundation and Channel 9 replacement. So, how are we doing? Well, I'm proud to say that in October, we,
Billy, hang on just a second. We lost a board member.
yeah.
Do we need to bring him back in, or did he mention anything to anybody going anywhere? You want to look, Martin, and see if
I
he's...
believe he's leaving.
You still got a quorum, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure there wasn't anything wrong. We need to wait on it or not.
We've done several
Okay,
months, minus
okay.
one, so.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Okay. In October, we only used 3 peak prediction days. The first, second, and third, it wasn't that hard to predict. It's 100 degrees every one of those days. So you can see those 3 days. Any of those would have easily been the peak because the rest of the days were down here because it was 100 degrees for 3 days and then it was 60 degrees for the rest of the month. But it pretty dramatically outpaced the previous year, which since we've been using the variable rates, we haven't seen that kind of thing happen, but the weather was severe and we have, still have a lot of people that have gone over to the fixed rate or not responding to our predictions. So you wind up with that. And you wind up with one of the lowest load factors we've had in an October in recorded, well, in the 5 years I've been looking at. So it means that our actual cost of power from TVA was quite high in October because our load factor was atrocious. I'm pretty sure every one of the LPCs was in the same boat.
That's a safe statement.
Was that a safe bet?
Very
I think
safe.
it would be. Here's the fuel cost adjustment. It's a small, very small decrease for December 1 that TVA is passing along, practically flat, really 0.011 cents. Here's where we are year to date. We've missed a lot of peak predictions in 2019. So we're $51,000 behind. Again, if we had not done the agreement to only call 4 days, we would have called enough days to hit the peak, but we agreed to do 4, so you wind up paying TVA more than you collect. But this is the full 2 years since we've been sticking to the 4-day maximum, and you can see right down here that it's only $18,000 off, and in the rate-making world, that's pretty negligible, so I think we're still on track. Here's the status of where we are. An interesting thing has been happening. The number of people on the fixed rate has been going pretty steadily down. So people are moving from the fixed over to the variable. Of course, we've been making sure that people know that 57% of the customers that have been on the fixed rate would have saved money if they were on the variable rate. And this is how we've been letting people know. This deal, you all might need to give us some guidance. We hired Scott Packard to protect our rights in this bankruptcy with Windstream. They're ignoring his appeals to affirm our contract, and they have not admitted in any of the meetings, if meetings is the right word, sessions of the bankruptcy court. They just haven't mentioned Glasgow Electric Plant Board and the money they owe us. Scott has now suggested, and we asked him to make us a proposal to actually make an appearance in Manhattan in the bankruptcy court. We asked him to make a proposal because we assume that's going to be pretty expensive. And if it's going to cost us $40,000 to collect 35, we don't want to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of the things you all might decide, are we willing to spend 20 to try to get 35? You know, you all might want to give us some guidance on that. But
What happens with they're still on our polls though, correct?
they are, and next month Melanie will be sending them another bill for $35,000 for the next year. But they have been current, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're current on everything since they declared bankruptcy. It's just the amount that they owed us the day they filed that we're having trouble even getting a portion of. I mean, we're just not getting any of their attention, but the court is paying no attention to us.
But there's no issue having to remove hardware from our polls though, right? At least right now?
No, I mean, I don't, the pole attachment agreement that we have with them, unfortunately, was silent on the possibility of them defaulting on payments. So there's not any operating language in there that says we can cut them down off of the poles, even if they default. We can tell them they can't attach to any more. I mean, in retrospect, it's not a great agreement, but who thought the phone company would go bankrupt? So,
Jeff, you'd have to be careful about, I guess, undue pressure, you know, if you're trying to put pressure one way to collect the debt, you can't do anything to try to
No,
collect that debt.
no, I understand. No, what I meant was, we don't have anything that's attached that we'd have to, that's been abandoned. I don't mean collection, I just mean abandoned.
We don't actually inspect their plant, and I don't know that our people would know by looking at it whether it's abandoned or not. I can tell you, they've been spending a lot of money in Glasgow. All these white bucket trucks you see in town with no markings on them, those are contractors for Windstream. I don't know what they're doing. But I bet they're trying to whip their plant into shape so they can sell it easier, but that's pure conjecture.
So you said they're current on everything, it's just the 35,000 from a past year
Yeah.
that they owe us? Okay, so, I mean, where are we at on legal fees at this point? Because, I mean, to me, I mean, if it's,
Scott actually-
It's not a ton of money.
it's not a ton of money to be spending a bunch of legal fees, I mean, that's,
But if he has to make it, he would have to hire somebody, a member of the bar in
Yeah.
Manhattan to appear, and I'm sure that's gonna be
Yeah.
pricey.
I mean, I'm not sure
Is it
this-
on a contingency basis, or is it fee?
No, we're paying him by the hour, but
Fee service?
has he sent us a bill?
He
Okay.
sent us one so
Okay,
far.
I mean, we're just paying the standard hourly rate. But, and he hasn't spent many hours on it yet.
Yeah.
Okay, RBG Foundation, I know Jeff knows about it.
let me go ahead right now. Every employee, VPB.
Right, this is, we created this, we lost a treasured member of our team in 2006, Jamie Young, and all of us that were here at the time were trying to figure out how we could honor her. And we came up with the idea of, instead of United Way and all these agencies that take a large percentage of the take for overhead, what if we just operate our own foundation? The EPB makes no contributions to it. This is deducted from our checks. And since 2007, when we created the RBG Foundation, we've given over $130,000 to causes that we thought honored people and causes in the community that deserve our attention. The most recent one was just made, this picture, we gave $10,000 to the BC Reads and Feeds program. And if you all don't know what that is, it's just, they gave us a fantastic presentation. They go out into the community and find kids and families that aren't getting enough to eat, and they feed them. And they bring them books. And that $10,000 is gonna go a long way toward that goal. So I'm super proud of the team, and there's a lot of people that give money to that never even knew Jamie, that have come, because that's been several years ago now, but the tradition continues. And then finally, I'll show you, if you haven't flipped by Channel 9 yet, we've got a super cool upgraded local weather radar product that's on Channel 9, if I do this right, replaces the one that we had before that I love, but it was running on some antiquated piece of hardware that they refused to support anymore, and when it died, we tried to replace it with a free radar product. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, it wasn't very good. So we've got this, and you all recently approved the expenditure to put this on, and now it's in business. So we're proud of it. And Mr. Chairman, I believe that is all I have for the evening.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. We are adjourned.